This is the second in the series of techniques that are used to estimate costs. And we're going to be looking at our first statistical method, which is known as the high-low method. And for this, we're going to use a demonstration problem. Uh, we have our cost analyst. He has gone back and he has secured data over the past 12 months, which shows the amount of overhead, manufacturing overhead, uh, that was accumulated and the number of machine hours that are associated with that month's manufacturing. And we're going to use this data in our high-low methodology. We're going to be working in Excel. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put these two worksheets side by side. And I could type in the data, but let me show you a neat little trick to speed things up when you have a Word document that you want to work in Excel. We can go over to the table that's in the Word document, find this little box, click on it and highlight our table and hit copy, and then we can bring this over into Excel and paste it, and we will have our table ready for us. The first thing we want to do is to take a look at this data and look for any outliers. Those are those activities that are well outside the norm. And the best way to do this is through a scattergraph. So let me show you how to put that together. We want to highlight the data that we want to use in our chart. And we can go ahead and we can include titles on this. So we're going to highlight the columns B and C. We're going to go down for the 12 months. We're going to leave out the totals. Do not put the totals in the chart. So we're going to go over here and we're going to insert a chart, and we want to use a scattergram. And we want to use the one without the lines. Now if you look over the scattergraph in the textbook, you'll see the line, but we're going to put that in separately. So we're just going to scatter only the markers. So let's hit OK. Now Excel is guessing at what we want, and actually we want to reverse this. So let's click on our chart and go over to select data, and we want to edit the data lines. Right now it's showing the overhead as the x-axis and the machine hours as the y, and we want to switch them. So we're going to hit edit. All right, so we're going to tell them that the series name, the name of the chart, we're going to call overhead and not machine. For our x-axis, we're going to use the machine hours. So we'll highlight the machine hours, leave out the name, click OK there. For our y-axis, we're going to use the overhead, and we'll click on that. And now we have our scattergram. So this lays out on the x-axis the number of machine hours, and on the y-axis the dollar amount. Now we can add a trend line. We'll click again in our plot area on one of the axis points, and we'll right click and hit add the trend line. And we want to put a linear line. But we'd like this line to go all the way back to the beginning. So we're going to tell it to go backwards. We begin at about 200, so we're going to go back 200 periods, and this will extend out our line. And now we have a nice trend line. We can look and see that the data points are pretty tight around that. We have none of them down way below or way above. If we did, these would be called outliers. All right, so we see that our data is valid. Now we can go over and do our high-low method. And the first thing we want to do is to sort our data. So we're going to highlight again the data fields. Again, we're going to leave out the totals. And we want to sort this by machine hours from the lowest number of machine hours to the highest. That's our activity. So we'll go over to data and we'll click on sort, and we're going to tell it to sort by the machine hours based on the values, and we wanted to go from the smallest to the largest. Go down there, click OK, and now we have our high and low activities. So we're going to be using our low and our high in our analysis. The first thing we need to do is to determine our variable cost per hour, and the variable cost per machine hour is going to be determined by looking at two things. We're going to look at the high dollar amount and the low dollar amount for our high and low activities. So we're going to, the high for our activities was 512. The corresponding cost is going to be 10,421. We'll subtract the low, the 7,102. Notice we're not going for the lowest dollar amount. We're going for the dollar amount at the lowest activity. All right. So that's our high activity dollars minus the low activities dollars. Next, we're going to go for the high activity hours minus the low activity hours. And again, that is going to be our high activity of 512 hours minus our low activity of 203. And that will give us our difference. Now the variable cost per hour is going to be the high dollar minus low dollar divided by the high hour minus low hour, or $10.74. So now how do we use this to find the fixed cost? Well, we know that the fixed cost is going to be equal to, at either the high and the low, the fixed cost is equal to the total cost, which we'll mark as TC, minus the variable cost. So we have the, for either the high or the low, and let's work in the high, we have the high cost of 10,421. We know the number of hours, and now we have the cost per hour, so we're going to calculate the variable cost. We'll take the total cost, subtract out the total variable cost, and that will get us our fixed cost. So our fixed cost is going to be equal to our total cost of 10,421 minus 512 hours times 10.74. So that's our formula. So our fixed cost equals our total cost minus our variable costs, or $4,921. We have some cents on there. Since we're working with estimates, it's no big deal just to reduce to a round number. So let's call it 4,922. And this would also work if we did it the other way around. If we use the low cost, again, our formula is going to stay the same. Fixed cost equals the total cost of 7,102 minus the total variable cost, which will be the 203 hours at $10.74. So let's do this in one swoop. So the fixed cost at the low activity will be equal to the total cost of 7,102 minus our machine hours times our variable cost per hour. And again, when we round that down, it will also equal what we calculated at high activity. And again, that's your check. If they don't match, then you've done something wrong. And that's our high-low method.